Okay, okay. So, welcome again. And the topic for discussion today is understanding and dealing with anger. As always, we are continuing our series on character building. So, I refresh it again why we do character building. Uh, what we're about to do is meditation on twin hearts, which is quite a powerful meditation. And any spiritual practice, again, not related to meditation on twin hearts or the school of pranic healing and Aratic yoga. Whenever we do any kind of spiritual practice, a tremendous amount of energy enters our system, which is essentially a fertilizing energy, and anything within our system will get fertilized and magnified. So, to ensure that this energy is utilized to magnify the right qualities or wholesome qualities, let's not get into the debate of right and wrong, but wholesome qualities, we need to ensure that we actively, consciously work on removing some of the things, well, that nobody wants. And these, I'll call them unwholesome qualities, right? And one of the key ones to deal with is anger and resentment. And a lot of times there's a misconception, or let's say an incomplete understanding, that for us to become peaceful, have less stress in our life, and all of those things. There are a lot of well-being activities that we can do, which include adding things into our schedule or doing things. For example, meditate a lot more, do a lot more yoga, uh, whatever works, right? I mean, there's a lot of good things. And these are partially true, but the most important things that we need to focus on is taking things out of our system because that is probably more effective. So, Master Choa used to say, and this is again, it comes with a disclaimer, that if we have time to do character building or purification activities, or we have to, or meditation, if you have to pick one of the two, he would recommend work on character building because, and if you look at the way we describe character building, it's kind of obvious that before you put a fertilizer in, it is much better to take the weeds out. So if you have time to do either fertilize or take the weeds out, it's much better to just take something out, right? And hence, every week, every Wednesday, we get together and talk about one of the topics which helps us get something out. So today, what we're going to take out is anger. Well, to some degree, right? As always, well, I have a problem that if I do a full screen, I can't see you guys. But okay, we'll work with that. Everything we talk about is based on the teachings of Master Choa and his books, and we'll refer to specific books. The book for today, uh, actually, we'll just stick to this little one today, which is one of the Golden Lotus Sutras on life. This one is called Experiencing Being, and it's, as the title says, on life. So there's some really, really good topics here. For those of you who are interested, I would highly recommend getting a copy of one of these. There are 7 of these books, and they're full with lessons which were captured as notes from various lectures that Master Chua gave all over the world. And sorry, but I'm gonna skip full screen because I really need prefer to see you guys. Okay. So question number 1, why deal with anger at all? As in, is it something that's even a good investment of time? Logically, you'll think, yes, I don't want to be angry, but the reason why I'm asking this question is this is not something where we are going to be helpless. We can actually deal with it. We can work on it because ultimately anger is an effect of something. There's an underlying root cause which we can identify and work on. So just because you have anger in the system, because there are certain people who think I have a temperament like this, I'm hot-tempered or I get angry quickly, I can't help it. And to all of those people, I want to say you can help it. So if anybody here in this group or anybody listening at some point in time believes that I'm sorry, I just can't help it, then the answer is no. And hopefully we'll get some understanding of that. As I was reading somewhere, I was listening to something, I don't know, but in a book, it's the quotation was, the greatest freedom that we have is our ability to react to things, and anger is one of those reactions. So whenever we find in ourselves in a situation where we have the choice of being angry and not being angry, well, based on the topic of today, you can understand what I'm going to recommend. So go with that. Now, let's look at some practical reasons. Again, if anybody is thinking why I'm okay to be angry, And I've heard that, by the way. I'm okay to be angry because after 5 minutes, everything is out of my system and I'm all happy and nice. I'm all chirpy. So it is much better just get it out of it. But maybe not, because, well, everybody here has done pranic healing. So we all have some understanding of energy. So just because it is out of our system doesn't mean it's kind of gone. It's just energy of anger, which has now created ripple effects in someone else's life or maybe our lives. It's going to come back and bite us. So, no. Okay. Now, what are the tangible reasons for dealing with anger? Why, again, I'm still continuing with why bother to spend time in understanding and dealing with it is because it is in our healthy self-interest. So I want to do this for me. I don't want to do this for other people who are going to be affected by my anger. That's how do I put it? That's just a side effect of it. What we are focusing on right now is how it's going to improve my life. I'm not talking about being selfish. I'm talking about healthy self-interest. And these are two completely different things. So that's one of my biggest selling point for why I work on anger. What it helps us do is have better physical health. I think all of us must have come across people who have certain diseases which can actually be traced back to anger. For people who have done advanced pranic healing, for example, whenever you are going through some of the treatments, you will read by Master Chua that this particular disease has psychological origins in some shape or form, right? And we come across quite a lot of these. We come across especially for cancer, right? If you are doing somebody's treatment for cancer, you will read it in the book that you need to do psychotherapy to get anger out. So that's the scariest one. But there are other effects which have, right? Um, we were having a discussion, right? The solar plexus get affected. Solar plexus then affects Mingmen, and then it can lead to hypertension. What is affecting solar plexus? Some of the negative emotions, some of those can be angry. Now, it's very difficult to accept that when we are suffering from that disease. For example, if you go to a cancer patient and say, hey, you have been very angry in your life, and that's why you have cancer, that's never going to work. And I would highly recommend never, ever, ever do that because you really don't know. These are contributing factors, and this doesn't really mean much. This is not a right to judge cancer patients and tell them, hey, it's because of your anger. Nothing like that. What it means is uh, the energy of anger affects our bodies, our energy bodies, our chakras, our auras, our specific cells, which can lead to a disease. It's simple as that, right? So for the physical health, very good idea to get rid of this thing. Again, we'll continue what we're talking about. More important to get the unwholesome things out of our system before we put anything in, right? So that's one. Um, Better mental health, uh, thoughts of our choice. What I mean by that is, whenever we're experiencing anger and resentment towards somebody, they seem to dominate our mental bandwidth. We spend way too much time thinking about somebody we actually don't like. So it's it's almost funny when you step out of it and look at it that, hey, I don't like this person. I did not like that incident. That thing caused anger in me. But for some reason, I spent the next 2 days thinking about it, next 2 weeks, 2 years, 20 years. I don't know. I know people who can within seconds recall incidents from which happened in the 1970s because it upset them. It's amazing. Uh, and we are all to some extent uh, guilty of that. And we have all been in situations where we have recalled something from the past and it has really made us angry again. And we didn't stop to consider that, hey, it's in the past, it's a long, long, long time ago. Master Chua used a philosophy. I saw one of his videos in a retreat, which was very nicely put and helped me get rid of it to some extent. He called all of this old emotional food. He says when food gets rotten, you don't still keep it on your plate or in your fridge so that you can take it out a few days later and taste it and see, oh, yes, it is bad. You get rid of it. So anger, resentment, these are also energies which are old emotional food. And why do you want to keep eating them? And the way he said it, when he said it, it obviously made you feel stupid, but it's a very, very good point and it's a very good perspective to have. So whenever something from long, long time ago comes, A, there are tools and techniques to deal with that. We talked about forgiveness in the last week, and I promise you we'll talk about it again in a few weeks. But there are tools available to us. So, but the point is, we can stop ourselves from doing that and not get carried away. So your bandwidth, your mental bandwidth is available for the good things that you want to do, the things that you focus on that make you happy, that require your attention. For those of you who have done Kriya Shakti class, we will learn a lot about this and that. If not, then do Kriya Shakti class. Assume that I'm plugging the class right now. There's one happening in a few weeks. Look it up, and you'll understand a lot more about how the energy of our thoughts affects everything that we are trying to create. So again, a very, very good reason. Be more prosperous. For people who want to be good healers, who have aspirations of doing some powerful and more efficient healing. I'll call it efficient, less than powerful. It's a very, very good idea to get rid of anger from your system because your healings becomes faster, they become more effective. Yeah, the energy softens, and as you will read in advanced book, uh, you know, not everybody has an advanced course here.
Yep.
We'll we'll,
We've done.
we'll talk about it some other time.
Yeah.
As but point being, the energy when anger energy is stripped out of it becomes a lot more softer. Softer energy penetrates faster, which makes the healing much, much more efficient. Otherwise, you're basically, well, you're negating your own healing. So, again, to become a better healer, get rid of anger and resentment from your system. And finally, well, these are my words, the last one. The opportunity cost of being angry is just too much. For example, I mean, really, if you were not experiencing anger, or if a lot of your bandwidth was not going into dealing with that anger, even us sitting here and talking about it, let's say if all of us were 100% super happy with zero anger, well, A, we won't be on this planet, but let's say substantial removal of anger, we won't be talking about this. These 20 minutes will be spent doing something else or talking about something else. You know, any amount of time that you have spent in experiencing anger about something or someone, you could have done something else. So that's just the time part of it. That's then there's peace of part of it. I mean, watching a movie is so much better than sitting and thinking about something that made you angry, right? I'm not saying movies are a waste of time. I'm just taking an example. In my head, Netflixing or binge watching is a waste of time. So, uh, and I do it regularly. But I hope that makes the point in terms of the amount of time. And then we talked about the other things, the effect on your health, physical, mental, emotional, the effect on your prosperity, effect on the projects, effect on your relationship. It always spills over. None of us are perfectly capable of isolating our emotions from one person to other. If you're angry at home, it will show up at work. If you're angry at work, it shows up at home. And our families, of course, deserve for the best of us. So we always show them what we are thinking, what we are feeling, right? So just for that, I think it's a very, very good idea. It's not really a sales pitch for people to remove anger, but I hope I'm making the point. I'll take a pause. Anybody has anything to add, to discuss, any obvious things that I'm missing that, we can all benefit from by removing anger from our system?
I was going to say that in my experience and the other work I'm trained in, if we allow ourselves to feel that anger in the moment when it happens and let it move through our system instead of suppressing it, then actually you don't carry it forward. It's when you kind of try to suppress it that it lingers and stays there for a long time. Whereas if you
Yeah.
can kind of physically feel it in the moment and physically move, then it doesn't become that long term thing
Okay. True, true, true. And everything I'm talking about is about holding on to that for a considerable
for a long
period of
time.
time, right? And I get it, I'm not recommending it, but for example, when you're angry and if you go and do a workout, if you go to the gym, it kind of is kind of out of your system. If you just take it out on the punching bag or the weights or the whatever, your bicycle, whatever we do, it kind of is, right? And just to make sure that I'm 100% clear on that. I'm not talking about the fact that none of us will experience anger. We will. This is about dealing with it to ensure that we don't hold on to it for a long period of time. And when we were talking about forgiveness, we talked about levels of forgiveness as Master Chua described. I mean, he's a very he has a scientific mind, so he puts things in words in a structure that kind of sticks with you. So this one did. Let's say there's 7 levels of forgiveness. There can be 8, there can be 5, doesn't matter. But one level is that level 0, level 1 is you never forgive, and you're holding on to that anger, resentment all your life. We come across people, certain people who are like, when they're on their deathbeds or they're seriously ill and seriously old, they're like, okay, let's make peace. Okay, I'm kind of paraphrasing a video from Master Chua, so credit goes to him on this. And there's certain people who take years and decades. As I told you, I know people, I met them who are holding on to things from the 1970s. Some of us were probably not even born then, and it's amazing, but they are holding on to these kind of things. What Master Chua recommends is we get to a level where we are able to forgive within hours or days, right? And that's a very good place to be. That's a very good benchmark because, well, like it or not, anger is a consequence of being alive. It's going to happen, right? So the expectation is not, and this whole session, nothing here is about not, don't be angry. It's about don't hold on to it for some time. You need to understand it, and we'll talk about understanding next. You need to understand how to process it, what works for you, and that might include therapy, and all that is great. What I am talking about is don't be sitting here a year later and thinking, "Oh my God, that made me angry." So yeah. What else? Any other thoughts from anyone?
Um, like we say, you're angry with somebody and you say, "Oh, I've forgiven him. I've forgiven him." And but when that person comes in front of you, you're angry again. So I don't know how we are sure that we've forgiven him. I am really confused in this.
Okay, we'll talk about it.
Mm,
I didn't have it planned today, but we'll talk about it. As people who have been attending sessions, these know I am very flexible with time.
okay.
So we'll see. See, I'm finding positive words, Gail. That's all.
I was going to say, Byron Katie has a really good exercise for sort of changing your perspective on something when you're angry with somebody, and it helps you to like view it differently and see
Uh-huh.
where actually perhaps you're a little bit in the wrong, and it helps with that forgiveness and letting go of an anger when you see it differently. And it's only like a one-page exercise that's really,
Okay.
really useful.
Do share it with me or with the group if people want. I haven't come across it, but I like one-page exercises, so please do. All right, carrying on. Just keep me where were we? Okay. Now, as I said initially, the reason why we even want to talk about anger and dealing with it is because we can deal with it. We can do something at this. We understand that it's an effect of something. And here are some of the causes. Let me, these are from this one little book itself. Anger is an effect. What caused the anger? How did the anger arise? Look at some of the causes of anger. And I have jotted those down on the slide in front of us. Frustration, not getting our way, low self-esteem. We don't feel good about ourselves. I'll let you read through these. Just spend like 30 seconds having a look. There's something I want to point out, something obvious that stood out. Okay. The ones which commonly occur, and I'm sure you will see it in your lives as well, is fear is a very big reason for anger. We just don't understand. The fear of unknown makes us angry if we have to confront it. Unfulfilled expectations, expecting something from someone and that not happening is also a very big reason for anger. Our own insecurities, both sides of the spectrum, pride and low self-esteem, these can trigger us. So, for example, if you are conscious about something and the other person starts talking about that particular topic, let's say, what should I pick? I'm thinking of something obvious. Let's say somebody's conscious of their body weight, right? And now the other person sits in front of you and he starts talking about food, or he starts talking about poor habits related to food. There's no connection between you and that for that person, but because this is what triggers you, you get angry that why are you talking to me like that, as if I eat too much? Who asked your opinion, etc., etc., etc. And you build onto something, and maybe the guy just saw a Netflix documentary about food and he just wanted to discuss. There may not be a connection, right? But we get triggered. For example, people, this one beautiful thing which happens a lot, talk to people when they're angry and tell them that they're angry and see how they behave. It's fantastic. I mean, this is one of my thing which somebody sat me down and like, you're angry. I'm not angry. I got angry for somebody telling me that I'm angry, which was hilarious once you look at it. But it happens a lot, right? And similarly, pride, importance. In certain cultures, people expect to be treated certain way, and they're very rigid about that. So if they don't get the kind of respect, attention that they want, and it's not about a culture thing, it could happen in relationships as well, right? If you're not giving the right attention to your partner, they can get angry about it. But a lot of things can happen. But the one obvious thing that I wanted to point out on this is if you look at these, you can't pick a single one of these which is someone else's fault. It's all within us. Every single reason on that slide, and I'm not saying this is an exhaustive list, this is one list. But and this occurred to me when I was writing this down, not even when I read this, and I think we have had discussion on anger many months ago. It didn't occur to me, but this time it was like everything that is pointed here, it's my issue. I would not accept this when I'm being angry at somebody, but now I know that I have something to work on. And this is the beauty of it, and this is why we are talking about it, that once we can step back and understand what is the issue that needs to be tackled, then we can get rid of this, or we can reduce it substantially. Every time I say get rid of something, I mean reduce something substantially. Nobody's targeting 100% perfection here. But I hope that makes you think, that makes you realize as well that we are talking about things within us that may be caused by something. And a lot of us may not be equipped to actually understand these properly, right? And we may need help. And this is where therapy and other things kind of come in. Or good, bold friends who will tell you the truth, they come in, right? That, okay, look, this is what I have been observing. And to identify these, we need to look at patterns, which brings me to my next one. How to deal with anger. So we talked about why deal with it. We talked about what are the causes of it. Now let's talk about how to deal with it. First one, my favorite, always accurate perception. Careful observation plus correct interpretation. Observing ourselves. I got angry 5 times in the last 1 month, let's say, right? What were the circumstances on those 5 days? Data collection, simply data gathering. What happened? What offended me? And was I suffering from any of these things which were listed out previously, which are in the book, by the way? And I'm sure you'll find them in many, many sources. But that it needs, why don't we do all of this? I mean, is there anybody here who wants to be angry? Unlikely. Some of us want to pretend to be angry at some point to get something done. That's a different thing altogether. But I'm talking about anger which makes us suffer, right? As I started, today we are talking about healthy self-interest. I am not worrying about other people. So most of us want to deal with it. So this is step one. And again, this is an exercise in isolation. It's all about me. I don't need to tell other people. Nobody gets to judge me, but I understand. So step one, careful observation. Step two, correct interpretation. And you can pick many examples. We have discussed so many examples around this thing, right? Let's see. Uh, I'll pick one. So I work in sales in my organization, and I was working on a large deal, and I went on a holiday. When I came back, my deal was assigned to somebody else. And when I came back, my expectation was that it will be assigned back to me, but that's not how the world works. And it stayed with the other person. I got angry. And like, okay, uh, why am I angry? Because I felt cheated. I various versions of that. And at the end of it, I made a big deal within in my head. On working with people later, I realized that while the other person is working on it, I'm a sales guy, the credit will come to me. because this happens, and I have supported other people. But at that point, I was triggered. Why was I triggered? I had to think about that. And the answer was, I was thinking that if I'm not visible in making one of the biggest deals within my company, this can affect my growth prospects in this company. Or it may put someone else in front of me. The competitiveness kind of kicks in. And then I'm like, okay, do I have a good track record that even without this specific deal, I can be okay? The answer was yes. I'm like, why am I worrying about it? It's just my insecurity about things. I do not want to be left behind on that particular thing. It was not easy to admit. It is harder to repeat it in front of you guys right now, but it happened. And the thing is, now if we have tools and techniques to deal with insecurities, with our fears, with imposter syndromes, all of those things which make you think you are less or which make you work harder and harder. Like, sorry, I keep forgetting my sources, but I was reading this study where some of the biggest executives all over the world were interviewed. And the reason why they were working so hard was not because they were driven by passion, but because they all had this thing in their head that they have to prove it to people around them that they are that good. They have to continue, and it's like you just get on this treadmill and you're never coming off. You just keep running, 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 running. And it's culture in so many countries and offices, right, where people will work extra hours just to show because they are insecure that if they are efficient and they finish their job in half the time, people will think that they're lazy, right? So, and if somebody calls you on that, for example, somebody leaves at 6 and you can have a comment, oh, look at him, he's leaving so early. That makes the other person angry. It has nothing to do with the comment. It's all got to do with the fact that he or she believes that he's not good enough and he has to go the extra mile to prove himself. So when someone calls that out, the reaction is anger. Sorry, a very corporate example. I did not want to pick a mother family kind of a thing, but I hope it still makes the point that you look at your pattern, you see what made you angry. Why did it make you angry? Ask yourself the why question 3 or 4 times. And once you do that, you'll be able to get to the bottom of it and then deal with it. You know how to deal with it. We'll talk about a few tools, how to deal with it. If you don't know how to deal with it, get help. And by help, I don't mean panic psychotherapy. I mean, get help, the kind that works for you. It may include panic psychotherapy, but there are a lot of things to be done. If you're not able to understand, you need to talk to somebody, as I said, a therapist, pay them, a friend, buy them a drink, whatever works, right? So this is number one. Everything without that, there's nothing to work on. Okay, and as Helen was saying, right, we are not talking about suppression of emotion. You are not being asked, nobody, well, I'm not asking you to do anything, but Master Cho is not asking us to suppress anger and be happy. Why? Because I have to be loving and kind. I'm upset. Oh my God, tap, tap my heart, tap my heart, tap my heart. Bless you, bless you, bless you. Nope. That's not what we need to do. We need to understand it. We need to deal with it. If it is still bothering us after a long period of time, think more, understand it, get help. If it is still bothering you, use the tools available to get rid of it. But without understanding, it's like you're just cleaning on the surface. It's going to bubble up again and again and again, and like Rekha mentioned, right? You forgive once, but the person comes in front of you. Why?
And
Because something needs fixing,
yeah.
right? Okay, I'll take a pause here. Any thoughts, any suggestions, any comments, concerns? Anything making anybody angry, please let me know. No? Not yet. All nice, loving people. Good. Okay, we'll continue on this. So, because the how to deal with this is super, super important. And now we will talk about the toolkit available to us through Master Chokur's teaching. And some of this, not all of it, comes directly from that, but I think it makes sense. So, number one, do not get hooked to whatever is making you angry. Because if you get hooked, think about it, it's like a flying balloon. There's an angry thought here. You get hooked to that, it's going to keep flying away and you'll be just pulled into that direction. And God knows when your journey is going to end, right? So don't get hooked to something, analyze. One of the fastest way of doing this is okay. Anybody in this group who has not done Achieving Oneness with the Soul class?
I'm not doing.
No worries. We have solution because we have books. Okay.
Which one is it?
Achieving Oneness with the Higher Soul.
No, I haven't got this book. I'll get it.
Okay. So this books talk about something called the soul affirmation. The ones who have done it, you know exactly what I'm talking about. But there's a practical usage of it. I'm not going to get into that because this is not the soul class. But effectively, if you look at this, then pay attention to this one. Change your words. What I mean by that, when you are feeling angry, you know, then do not say, I am angry. Try not to say, I am angry. Try saying, I have anger. This works beautifully in many, many languages. English is not a language for this, for expressing yourself this way. I get it, right? Like if you speak in Spanish or Italian, even in Hindi, I think you can very easily get away with that. Like you will say, I have this emotion instead of I am that emotion, right? The reason why I'm talking about this subtle difference is the moment you do that, right? You are disassociating yourself with it. I have anger. I am not anger, or I am not angry. It's not me. I'm not being that. I have that. It's like I have this phone in my hand. What's the one thing I know very, very clearly? I can put it away. I don't have the phone in my hand anymore, right? So that's one very important distinction. And if we are able to make it, it is super helpful in dealing with any negative emotion. You can always say, I am not the emotion. I have this. I don't want to play with this right now. This is not for me right now. So I'll put it away. This understanding itself is is one of the best practical implications of the soul affirmation. For those who have not done the class, it's not a problem. All I'm saying is that you have to disassociate yourself with the emotion that you're feeling at that point. Because once you know that, you know how to deal with it. How to deal with it, that comes in the next point. But let me cover everything. Okay. Um, what else do I have? Practice inner forgiveness. Okay, so if your anger is being triggered by certain people, which is mostly the case, you're not going to be angry at your table or your chair. I mean, you could be if you bang your toe, but in normal cases, no. So if you are experiencing anger towards a certain set of people and it has been sitting with you, and the first thing to do is, of course, understand it. But a lot of times when we are upset and we are really getting angry, that may not be the right time to do the understanding. You can understand it after a few hours when you have calmed down. Once you do, practice forgiveness. So this is something I think we spent a did I record the last week's session? I hope I did. But we spent a lot of time talking about forgiveness, and we'll talk again, as I said, right? Why do this, how to do it, etc., etc. But this is a very good practice. Why is it very important? Again, we are only talking about healthy self-interest today. Once you do that, that energy from your system is released to a very large extent. How long do you need to do that? I have no idea. Nobody has any idea. Because you may forgive, and I'll come back to the point raised earlier. How do you know that I have done enough forgiveness? Ideally, if the same person comes in front of you, then the emotion of anger and resentment is not triggered. Because if it is triggered, it's not the time to beat yourself up that, oh, I did not do a good job in practicing forgiveness. That's not the point. It's just a marker, it's just an indicator to tell you more forgiveness is required. And it is also an indicator for you to go and analyze that hurt and in a much more deeper manner and then deal with that. Why did someone said something? It hurt me. Why? What did they say? What did it trigger within me? Because we looked at the causes of anger. Everything was internal. There was nothing external sitting there. Somebody from outside cannot trigger us. So why is it that family members are brilliant at it? So why is it that somebody is able to trigger something? You know, you have to deal with that a lot of time. And let's also discuss a scenario where maybe there's nothing within us that is getting triggered. It's just bad behavior. It's just bad habits in front of you again and again and again. And that is triggering you, you know. Let's take a simple example, maybe. Anybody can think of an example? Other person being okay. Let's Kathy. Yeah, you got something? Okay, maybe not. Um, okay, let's pick an example. Let's say you live with somebody who is messy. They create a mess wherever they go. Their room is shabby. You clean it up, you tidy things up. You come back, the room is a mess again. Clothes are out, kitchen is not clean, etc., etc., etc. You worked really hard. The reason why you're upset is because you worked really, really hard to make a clean place so that you come back to a clean house. But it's not. It upsets you. Okay, you clean it again. You sleep. Next day, same thing happens. Next day, same thing happens. Next day, same thing happens. And now the fifth time it happens on a day when you're super tired, maybe you're unwell, maybe you have a deadline. You don't want to clean the house. You get angry. You lash out. You say something. Now, in this scenario, we can say, hey, it's fair, right? I mean, how much am I going to do? The person needs to see and take responsibility. Now, as I said, we'll only talk about ourselves. Was it our job to draw some boundaries? Was it our job to have a difficult conversation after the first or second time and say, look, hey, I want the house to be tidy. This is how I prefer it. Can we agree on something? It is okay if you are going to create a mess, but can you clean up before you're done? If you're going to pick 50 dresses, clean them up. Whatever, is it important to have that conversation? Now, if after the fifth time it triggers you, then the other person who's very comfortable with that kind of living, and I'm not saying dirty clothes and anything, I'm just saying just messy. And if the other person is comfortable with that, it doesn't bother. I want to place my towel on the floor next to me. That's my placement. You don't like it, that's your problem. But it's my placement. And you never told me that it bothers you. So who's at fault? How do I deal with that anger? I have to go back to me again and say, look, I did not have the right courage to have the difficult conversation, which could have been upsetting for 2 minutes, 2 hours, but it would have set clear boundaries and I would have had a better life. And I would not have these reasons. It's my job to remove those reasons. People around us do not have their job to make us happy or comfortable. It's our job. And if you have to draw boundaries, we have to draw boundaries, right? So another very good example in terms of how to actually deal with that. What else? You guys talk too much. We are way over time.
You know, the example like you gave, somebody is messy and you're getting angry on it, but it's your expectation from the other which is triggering
There you go.
this anger issue, isn't it?
Nice. Thank you so much. You brought me back to my slide. It was
Yeah.
comprehensive. Yeah. Again, you're right. It is expectation.
Mm.
And it would be nice, but like I was listening to a lecture on anger and resentment by a guy called Sriram in India. And he was talking about when people get married, when they get into relationship, they talk about all the lovey-dovey stuff. Nobody talks about who's going to do the chores. And that's a very practical thing, right? And fast forward a few years, uh, all the lovey-dovey stuff is out of the window, and the practical things start mattering a lot more. And that's when it hurts. So, yes, expectations, dealing with them. And there's nothing wrong with having expectations. I'm not saying don't have expectations. You're not becoming monks of that order. But if we are not expressing them properly, it's a communication gap at our end, right? So think about that. But you know what to deal with rather than being angry. That's my whole point is analyze, careful observation, correct interpretation so that we can take action. All right. Verbal and mental discipline. This is assuming that none of us have physical tendencies of being angry. But when I was thinking about it, I think it's a very wrong expectation because physical anger does not mean being abusive and hitting somebody. Banging a door, slamming a book on the desk, throwing a cushion on the floor, or whatever. That's also physical expression of anger. So think about that. Uh, Once that is substantially reduced, it is a good idea to be careful with your words. Hurtful things said with anger can have, well, Master Choy used to call it emotional gunpowder. So when you're talking with a lot of emotion behind it and a lot of negative emotion behind it, it's like bullets being fired, which can punch some serious holes, which could be very, very difficult to fill, no matter how good a healer you are. So always a good idea to just watch yourself and avoid that, because we can work ourselves to be more angry than when what we started with when we're having an argument. I don't know if that makes sense, but it has happened to me and it felt silly. And that's when you think I should shut up and not say anything. But no, that's when you need to calm down, relax, and then have a proper conversation. Everything can wait. Like most things can wait. Finally, let's talk about some active ways of doing it. We talked about soul affirmation. So the ones who have taken the class, doing soul affirmation is a brilliant way of calming ourselves down from emotions, because the affirmation, I can always read the affirmation for the ones who have not done the course. Nobody can stop us from doing that. So the soul affirmation simply says, I am that I am. I am not the body, thoughts, or emotions. I am the soul. So let's just focus on this part. The rest of it we can leave. The moment you understand I'm not the body, thoughts, or emotions, you know I'm not the emotion. Anger is an emotion. So I'm experiencing something external, not me. I can deal with it. That's the whole point of it. And that's why it is much more helpful to talk about these emotions like having an emotion rather than being. So having anger and not being angry. Okay. Feeling irritation and not being irritated. It's just a subtle change, but it makes a lot of difference when you're trying to deal with them. There's an energy connection linked to it as well, which some of us are able to scan and understand. If not, just experiment with that, right? Um, of course, my two favorite techniques, inner reflection and firm resolution. And this is where you need first to think about it, right? And inner reflection, we understand. Firm resolution, we understand effectively. Look at the unwholesome activity, erase that regularly, need not be daily, but regularly, ideally daily. Master Chua prescribes uh, pick one virtue or pick one quality and work on it for 2 months, because it takes time. Just like forgiveness takes time, this also takes time. So that's one. Meditation on twin heart is an excellent way to deal with anger and resentment in two ways, in at least two ways. Number one is anger is an emotion. When we do meditation on twin hearts, we know that energy gets flushed out of our system, right? So if you have experiencing anger and resentment, and if that energy is sitting in your system, by doing meditation on twin heart, that will be flushed out. It will be replaced by loving kindness. That's what the meditation does to us. Second thing is we can, if we have taken the time to understand the root cause, for example, is fear, is pride, any of these, let's say, I'm just taking two examples. If these are the ones that are driving it, we can use inner reflection from resolution to delete and plant the new memories, new energy, sorry. Second, we can invoke before to enhance meditation. Thank you for removing fear of out of my system, and then do meditation on twin hearts. In that case, there's a focused effect, and the energy will flush out the energy of fear from our system. The other thing which I haven't mentioned is get therapy. Try and understand so that you can remove it. When you have understood, approach a psychotherapist so that he or she can remove it from your chakras and your systems. If you can do it for yourself, excellent. Most of us, me included, are super lazy with self-healing. We can help a lot of other people, but maybe not. Which, by the way, comes from low self-esteem and unworthiness and a whole host of other things, which we'll talk about next time. Okay, so for today, I think I'll take a pause. If anybody has anything else to share, anything that got triggered or an insight, please go ahead. I would love to hear that. Please, Gail.
For me, and it was something I've raised in this forum before, is about my partner, Bob, moving my stuff and how angry it made me, outrageously, screamingly angry. And actually working on it, thinking about it, understanding. So on that thing, I think it was something like about territory. Was that what was true? What was that? And and then there's pride, and there's this expectation of being respected. That's my
Yep.
stuff. Don't move it. So I'd get very, very angry, and then I would justify that anger. I would say, "Well, I'm this angry because of this." But now I've just learned just to say, "Do you know where this is?" Because if he's moved it, that's all I have to say. Do you know where my purse is? Do you know where my phone is? Do you know where that piece of paper, that letter I left on the side because I was going to take it with me? Do you know where it is? Easy.
Yeah, well, there you go. You got to find a solution that works.
It's just, instead of screaming, "Have you moved that? Why have you moved that?" And it was just because I was suffering. I mean, he was suffering a bit, getting sort of earache from me, but it was just all that anger and tension over the fact that I left something there. It's no longer there. Just ask, where is it?
That's actually, I mean, it's wonderful, right? You just bypass the whole anger and dealing with that
Yes.
situation and just use different words to put yourself in a better position. See, putting ourselves in a position where we do not have to suffer like this is one of the best things to do. There's no need to be hard-headed. You don't have to keep hitting a wall if you know it's a wall. So I'm fully with that. A lot of people think, oh, you're chickening out or you're just not confronting. I don't think you need confrontation every time. So
No.
with you on that. Super. What else? Anybody else has anything on their mind? All right. If not, then we'll take a pause and we'll practice.